Diablo's multi-stage disintegration gradually broke through every defensive barrier of Raine's. The last beam pierced cleanly through her chest. Everything had gone according to Diablo's plan. Raine was still breathing, which Diablo had also accounted for. Kufufufufufu, how weak. Fighting you felt more boring than fighting Tensura before she evolved. Tensura. That's none of your business. Compared to that, why have you come here? Tell me the reason. Do you honestly think I'd? Well, Diablo asked arrogantly. Raine didn't feel the need to obey. She refused without hesitation, much to Diablo's displeasure. Despite having just defeated her, he was not relaxed. The fully evolved insect-type monster was left for Shion and Ranga to deal with. That thing was no joke, the natural enemy to the demon race. It was a life form from a different dimension, living inside the crevices of the physical and spiritual world. There were semi-spiritual life forms, and upon entering the physical world, they would naturally gain a body and become a challenging invader. If there were a large group of them, they would be extremely dangerous. Such dangerous species must be discovered early on and eliminated as soon as possible. Essentially, it was extremely rare for these monsters to evolve into humanoid forms. They usually couldn't adapt to the physical world, and would be stuck at a certain level of evolution. Yet that insect-type monster called Razzle somehow evolved into his final form. Diablo thought that even Shion and Ranga combined would have trouble dealing with it. To be fair, Shion Dono is Rimuru-sama's subordinate, after all. She is capable of committing horrors that may potentially turn the table entirely, despite the difference in strength. With Ranga Dono at her side, they probably wouldn't lose. But even if that's the case, Diablo could win against Razzle. He thought that eliminating uncertain factors like that from the battlefield would serve Rimuru-sama's interests. That's why he wanted to head back quickly to finish off Razzle. And yet, another thought crossed his mind. Diablo suspected that Rimuru was being intentional when he assigned Shion and Ranga to the task. It was true that Diablo was shaking. He felt the presence of Raine closing in and didn't want them to disrupt the battlefield. That was why Diablo couldn't focus on his fight. And I was so pretentious to think I should have taken out Razzle fast. But was this really better? Perhaps Rimuru-sama wanted Shion Dono and Ranga Dono to fight against a powerful foe, in order to gain experience. Then I would only get in the way by defeating him, Diablo thought. This was the train of thought one would expect from a battle maniac. Normal people wouldn't come to a bizarre conclusion like this. Diablo was an absolute believer of Rimuruism, which meant that any action taken that was not according to Rimuru's will would run afoul with him. Just win against your enemy. Things were not that simple. As Diablo passed the opportunity to fight against a rare powerhouse to them, he had also genuinely hoped they would win against this opponent and turn them into their useful experience. I really have to take it slow and be careful with my judgment in this kind of situation. And so, Diablo's thoughts derailed far into the land of misunderstandings. While someone as masterful in combat as Raine was right in front of him, Diablo's mind was in turmoil. Of course, Rimuru never considered any of this. He merely wanted the whole thing to end smoothly and ensure the safety of the children and the band members. Having Shion and Ranga gain combat experience was something that didn't even cross his mind under these circumstances. Diablo's mind had sailed in a completely wrong direction. And based on this absolutely wrong judgment, Diablo's plan took a huge turn. I was planning to kill you, but I guess not. What are you saying? Was it a threat? No, it's enough. You don't have to act anymore, just come out already, Diablo said in the face of Raine, who had a huge hole in her chest. She didn't seem to understand what he was saying, but her expression gradually turned to one of agitation. Unlike the pale face from before learning she was defeated, her expression now looked quite complicated, a mixture of chagrin and hatred. Noir, you only managed to evolve to Demon Peer recently. You're as much of a blockhead as always. Strength is not a matter of magical content alone, it's about your techniques. Just as my senpai once said, a difference in magical content does not equate to a difference in strength. How dare you say something so arrogant? Raine's voice slowly dissipated as her body disappeared. She turned into ashes and vanished. In that moment, a beam of light pierced the sky, and as the light faded, two figures emerged. They were Blue and Rouge. The one who was kneeling was Blue, Raine. The one standing majestically was Rouge, the strongest, Demon Lord Geek Crimson. Hey, long time no see, Noir. Rouge, no, you are now Geek Crimson. So you were here. Diablo had been keeping his guard up for Guy from the start. To Diablo, Guy began to talk in a reminiscing tone. You've realized from the start that it was just Raine's mist, haven't you? If that was the case, why did you still make use of such a powerful spell? Diablo frowned in disgust at the question. Basically, he had pretended to not realize Raine's mist from the start. According to Diablo's original plan, he was going to mislead Raine's actual self and Guy, who were watching over him, to get the impression that this guy's not that strong after all. Had they seen Diablo act all pretentiously and left after beating Raine's mist, Guy would have probably been disappointed in Diablo. he would lose interest and leave right away. This way, Diablo would have been able to hide his ability from Guy and win some time to help Shion and the others. Yet this plan was forced to be terminated. This was out of Diablo's own pursuit. You don't have to act anymore. This line was meant for Diablo himself too. Wouldn't it be impossible to beat us primordial demons with just disintegration? A trick like that couldn't even be called a trump card. Ho, you sure talk big. Even I wouldn't be able to stand unfazed if shot directly. If I took a direct hit, I would disappear too. That said, I'd first need to be hit directly. Cuckoo, ahahaha. Kufufufufu. Guy laughed with satisfaction hearing Diablo's response. Diablo continued with this calm attitude as he stood his ground against Guy. During this, Raine was treated like air. Oh, by the way, why did you wait until now to evolve? Aren't you different from those three and didn't want to draw anyone back? Well, those three might seem to be dragging each other back. The truth is that it was their way of entertaining themselves. But it is true I had nothing to do with them. Guy, I wanted to ask you something too. Do you think that there could be people stronger than us in this world? Diablo responded to Guy's doubts with a question, similar to the one he had asked Tensura. Such a statement was common sense among the primordial demons, Guy being no exception, so it was easier to get a response. Probably no, if I had to give an answer, probably true dragons, but they are more like natural phenomena. Even true dragons would not be a threat to Guy. It may be different had Star King Dragon Veldanava been resurrected. Considering the current state of things, Guy wasn't wrong. Indeed, Diablo nodded, we are the strongest. However, evolving even knowing this, wouldn't it make fighting others boring, since it's a one-sided slaughter? He claimed with a smile on his face. This was another mince that one could expect from a battle maniac. So that's how you see it. Guy understood it now too. Even though they wouldn't admit it out loud, the two had very similar personalities, and they were surprisingly tacit in times like these. Did your view change because of that slime? He is called Rimuru-sama, please don't call him a slime. Got it. So the reason why you evolved was because of this Rimuru, right? Diablo had always lived life on his own terms, at his own pace, which pissed Guy off a bit. But complaining now won't help things progress. While playing along would still piss Guy off, he cooperated with Diablo and rephrased his question. Right, Diablo continued. Rimuru-sama's growth so far has been most astonishing. What he has achieved was truly worthy of the name evolution. He's also incredibly adorable and apt parents, his soul is filled with noble spirit, moreover. Are you gonna go on with this for a while? That goes without saying. Almost as if saying this, Diablo returned a sharp look at Guy. Let's stop with Rimuru for a while and talk about you. Diablo was a little displeased, but he suspected the situation was rather dire, and decided to follow Guy's suggestion. Tisk, can't be helped then. Let me cut to the chase. The companions of Rimuru-sama have also been progressing at an extraordinary pace every day, and I, too, was inspired by such an atmosphere. Oh, how surprising. Guy looked a bit exhausted, but he still tried his best digesting Diablo's words. Yes, if I live too casually, I may eventually get left behind. There is no reason for me to limit my growth living in that kind of environment. So that was the reason. Now Guy understood. He finally picked up his pace. Rimuru seemed to have dominated the Western nations, Guy told Diablo, then cracking an evil grin. But unfortunately, my subordinates should be wreaking havoc over there. In Guy's view, it was simply a prank he pulled on the humans. For Rimuru, on the other hand, who wanted to have a friendly relationship with the humans, the situation was a lot more severe. That was the reason why Guy said this. Trying to create trouble for Diablo was a fool's errand, so instead he targeted Rimuru, catching Diablo in the fallout. That was when he recalled that his subordinates were starting a rampage in the Western nations, so he decided to exploit the situation a bit. Diablo, who used to be able to rival Guy, suddenly acknowledged someone as his master, and Guy was not amused by it. That's why he decided to provoke Diablo and try to start trouble. Without Razzle guarding the Northern Realm, the Western nations were lacking in reserve. Just as Guy said, the place was probably a living hell now. Considering the current circumstances, Diablo would not be able to do anything about it. Even Rimuru would not be able to react. Or so Guy thought. Upon hearing that, Diablo continued to laugh in his usual kufufu manner. You think Rimuru-sama has not expected that? He has already made arrangements. Rimuru-sama's magnificent mind could perceive and foresee all things in life. And Guy thought Diablo would be shaken a bit, yet he was completely unfazed. Worse than that, even under these circumstances he was still singing Rimuru's praises. What a nut job, Guy couldn't help but realize. Oh, he does seem very interesting. I suppose that guy has exceeded my expectations. Yes, that is only natural. It is only natural to Rimuru-sama. Diablo would continue to provoke Guy, big time, during the absence of Rimuru. Had Rimuru known this, he would have shouted, "What the hell are you doing?" Raine bit her lips regretfully hearing their conversation. Yet Guy and Diablo continued completely ignoring her. It was during which the Western nations were experiencing an unprecedented crisis. The main defense force of the Sidra border region, who were in charge of fending off demons, had disappeared for reasons unknown. Due to their inability to defeat the regularly invading demon armies, they requested emergency support. How can this be? You said that the demon army is coming down south. What the hell is the Count of Sidra border doing? There's no time for pointless squabbling. All nations should be assembling their armies and setting up defensive positions at important junctions, or else the capital of Ingratia will also fall prey to the invasion of the demon army. The delegates of every nation had gathered for an emergency council meeting, and were quarreling endlessly without a solution in sight. The Western States Council was an organization formed by delegates of its member states. Even though the council's decisions held great weight, it would also waste a lot of time in following procedure during emergency situations. This was the biggest weakness of the democratic majority vote system. The defense of the Northern Realm was handled alone by the Count of the Sidra border in the Kingdom of Ingratia. Around half of the total military strength of Ingratia was deployed in the north against Geek Crimson. Moreover, several Holy Knights were dispatched there as well, alongside several rank A adventurers from its subsidiary organization, the Freedom Association. That was how important the land was as a strategic location. If it were to fall, it would be a matter of life or death for humanity. No wonder why the councillors that had gathered were in such a panic state. Right now, the final line of defense was barely holding on as the Holy Knights and adventurers stationed there were taking the brunt of things. Based on the dire situation that was unfolding, they needed to send reinforcements immediately. However, there wasn't enough time. While this might have already been accomplished with authoritarian states, since the decision was made by a league consisting of independent entities, they needed to request approval from their respective home nations first. The quickest solution right now was to issue an emergency request to the Freedom Association.